Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is Ash Quest, and today I want to unbox and overview X-Men Under Siege. This is a board game made by Pressman in 1994. It features 18 collectible X-Men figures and a free X-Men survival guide to the mansion. This may be a bit of a different flavor than what I usually have on my channel, but superheroes are heroes too. Also, I was a huge fan of the various X-Men comics growing up, as well as the X-Men cartoon, which I watched religiously every Saturday morning. Out of all of the board games that I researched, this and X-Men Alert, which came out 2 years prior, to me felt like the closest kinds of board games that I would like to play. So most appropriate for the channel, and also the closest matches to the cartoon that I loved to watch. I'm still a fan of it today. I really can't wait for X-Men 97, but I digress. A look at the back of the box shows you everything that you'll be getting. This has a pretty long board, but it doesn't take a whole lot of space. And you can get a preview of all 18 of your X-Men miniatures here. The X-Men Alert game actually has almost the exact same set of miniatures with some notable exceptions. We have 3 heroes here that are not represented in X-Men Alert, namely Bishop, Gambit, and Maverick. And X-Men Alert has 3 heroes that are not in this game. So Shadowcat, Colossus, and Professor Xavier. Besides that, a lot of the miniature sculpts are the same between the 2 games. There are some miniature sculpts that are more dynamic in this game. A lot of them look a little bit better. So in the 2 years that passed between the games, Pressman wised up and decided to do something a little bit different. Opening the box, nothing different underneath the lid. We get access to the board. This is a bifold board, so this is half and it unfolds to reveal the second half. The X-Men mansion is what's being represented here. The various floors of the mansion, from the second sub-basement to the first sub-basement, to the basement, then the ground floor, the second floor, and then the attic. There is an enemy health tracker on the left that will count down from 21 to 0 as you score hits on the enemies that you find. And there are spots on the board itself for the Under Siege deck and the Evil Mutants deck. I'm always a fan of when there are defined spots for cards to go. As for the game itself, I felt like the miniatures were not represented well in any photograph that I saw or any video that I saw. These miniatures are actually quite a bit bigger than I expected them to be. Here's a Hero Quest mini for scale, and you can tell the X-Men ones are quite oversized. They're also very lightweight. They're durable. They're not bendy at all. They're pretty strong, but the plastic does feel really lightweight and cheap somehow. But yet the sculpts are really good. Speaking of sculpts, let's just go through the entire roster. Archangel, Banshee and Beast, Bishop and Cable, Cyclops and Gambit. It is here that you may notice we have a little bit of disproportion. Just bodily proportions are different between the characters. Cyclops' head is massive compared to Gambit's. Havoc and Iceman. Havoc is a good example of a miniature whose sculpt was changed between this game and Alert. The Havoc miniature that comes with Alert is much more lame. But like the Iceman sculpt is the exact same. It's the exact same miniature. Jean Grey and Jubilee. Longshot and Maverick. Nightcrawler and Psylocke. Rogue and Storm. And fan favorite Wolverine, whom they probably wisely decided to sculpt with his claws retracted. The game comes with the instruction book, the survival guide to the mansion, which again kind of reads just like a comic, along with the 90s advertisements. It shows you top secret details about the X-Men mansion. This board game is the only place I think that you can get this material. And then in the back we have an advert for other heroic superhero games like Othello and Mastermind. And Mutant Chronicles. Hey, whoa. Hello. I'm gonna have to do some research on this one. My copy of the game came with this Kenner Action Toy Guide that shows you sort of a snapshot of the toys they were trying to sell you in the time period. I remember a lot of these. And then there are power stat cards. These cards correspond to the X-Men, and they provide you with the information you're going to need when you're playing the X-Men. For example, here's Havoc. He has a fighting skill of 3, which means he rolls 3 of the 9 available combat dice. He has a durability of 3, that's his health, and it's represented by these circles with the X's on the right side of the card. And he has an intelligence of 3, which means if you have Havoc on your team, you'll be able to have 3 of the playable Under Siege cards in your hand. You've got the art, and then you've got the description of this character's unique ability. In this case, it's Plasma Blast. When Havoc is leading his team in battle, he can help one teammate in battle using his Plasma Blast power. Add 3 dice to a teammate's fighting skill number. That could be very useful. Anyways, we have all of the other ones. So here's Cyclops, Gambit, Maverick, Nightcrawler, Psylocke, Rogue, Storm, Wolverine, Iceman, Jean Grey, Jubilee, Longshot, Archangel, Banshee, Beast, and Bishop, and Cable. You can tell that these were punched out of a larger piece of cardstock by the original owner. Next up, we have all of the tokens and cards and dice that come with the game, and all of the chits. This container is mine. It did not come with this game originally, but it does keep everything extremely organized. There are 9 dice, and they originally come with the game blank. There is a sticker sheet that you then peel stickers off of to apply to the dice. Every die will have, of course, 6 faces. There's 6-sided dice. But you've got a sticker for Evil Mutant, which represents a 1 in value, Marvel, which is a 2, and X-Men, which is also a 1. You have 2 of these X-Men faces, and then you've got 2 blank faces. So when you roll the dice, there's a chance that you could get all blanks, as you see here. Marvel or X-Men results, which will incur damage to your foes, in this case 3 points of damage, and Evil Mutant results, which will incur damage to your hero. In this case, this single roll would give 3 points of damage to the evil mutant that your X-Man is fighting, while the evil mutant die would incur 1 damage to your X-Man at the same time. And the game comes with an appropriate amount of these hit chips, which will be placed onto these durability symbols as your character takes damage from the result of evil mutant die rolls. Whenever all of your durability spots are filled with hit chips, your mutant is out of action and must recover before fighting. If you get a seriously unlucky die roll, you may end up with extra hit chips applied to your character, and you can put those on your character's picture on the power stat card. This means your character is severely wounded, and on your next turn, you will have to roll to recover. And if your roll does not remove all of the applied hit chips on your character's portrait, this character is lost. They've effectively been KO'd in the mansion. Now, for some reason you don't have combat dice with your copy of the game, you can use standard D6 and just assign these values to the different faces. 1 and 2 can be blank, 3 can be evil mutant, 4 and 5 can be X-Men, and then 6 can be Marvel. That sort of thing. The game comes with an Evil Mutants deck, and this is representative of all of the different evil mutants that could be storming your mansion. You'll have to defeat all of these guys to collect the points and win the game. All of the evil mutants have a single stat, and that is their strength, and this corresponds directly to the health tracker that is on the board. But the possible evil mutants that you'll be facing off against, and I wish these guys had miniatures too, are Mr. Sinister, Fabian Cortez, Avalanche, Blob, Wendigo, Sauron, Sabretooth, Juggernaut, Sentinels, Magneto, Alien Brood, Omega Red, Strife, Exodus, Cameron Hodge, Fitzroy, Toad, and Apocalypse. During gameplay, if you turn a token over and it reveals an evil mutant, you have to draw one of these cards. It's also possible for you to draw Cerebro Scans. This is a lucky break. There's only 2 of them though. This is ultimately a game of scoring points, and there are a lot of different ways that you can do that over the course of the game. During setup, you will take these differently colored X chits and place them onto the board. Each color corresponds to one of the floors in the mansion, so your yellow chits will go onto all of the yellow X's in the first sub-basement, for example, you'll continue until you have filled all of the X's, not looking at the underneath of the chips. And then you'll end up with extras, which you'll put back into the box, making sure not to look at those either. So each game will be just slightly different. Each player now picks a color to be. This color does not have any bearing on the game. The colors do not match the colors of the floors on the board or anything like that. You can be green, yellow, purple, or blue. It's just a way to make distinct your team, and it also helps you with identifying markers and things like that. So you can place the base right onto your character to give them that identifier. Some of these bases are pretty snug and others just slide right off. Each player starts the game by drawing 2 of these power stat cards at random, or if you all have different favorite X-Men, you could divvy them up that way, I suppose, and let everybody have a choice. But every X-Man has an intelligence rating. For example, Beast here has a 4 and Bishop here has a 2, and these numbers combine to let you know how many cards you can have in your hand. How many Under Siege cards. The game comes with a deck of Under Siege cards, and these cards are actually how the game is played. Most of the cards depict one of the rooms in the mansion, and this is how you move your X-Men to those rooms. There are a couple of other actions on these cards that are special and they're explained in the rules. I won't go over them here. But you can play one of these cards on your turn, and then at the end of your turn, you can draw up to your maximum allowed number of cards in your hand. So back up to 6 I go. Certain events in the game make it possible to obtain a third X-Man, and if you do obtain a third, then you will use the 2 cards that have the highest intelligence values, if applicable, to determine how many cards you can hold in your hand. You won't simply add all 3 of them together. Since this one's 2, this one's 2, and this one's 4, it'll still be 6 cards because 4 is the highest, and then these 2 are the same, just 2 and 2. It looks like the most cards you can have is 7 in this game. Beast is the smartest character with an intelligence of 4. Storm has 3, but she ties with Havoc, who also has 3. Haha, Cyclops, you just have 2 intelligence, get wrecked. You can set an arbitrary point value, like 40, and end the game as soon as a player has 40 points, or you can just play until every single room in the mansion is secured. Your mutants will use the cards to move floor to floor, room to room, flipping over the X chips in each room until the entire mansion is secure, at which point the game is over and you'll tally up your points to see who the winner is. But when you flip over the X chips, you could be met with a blank space, which means the room is secure, there's no combat, you're good to go, or they could be flipped to reveal the evil mutant symbol. This means draw a card from the evil mutant deck and then combat begins. Now let's say I drew that combat card here in the red floor, the basement, and we'll say I drew Evil Mutant Alien Brood Strength 20. The game comes with 6 Evil Mutant Strength indicators. There's 1 colored for each floor, and there can only be 1 enemy battled on a floor at a time. So this is the indicator that will be used to track this enemy's health, and it will go right on the health indicator on the board, right on the 20. He's very strong. And then you just roll your fighting skill until the combat's over. And there, 1 evil mutant, so my X-Men would take 1 damage. 1 X-Men, Marvel, which is a 2, and another X-Man. So a total of 4 damage to the evil mutant, a total of 1 damage to my X-Man. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'll put a hit chip on my X-Man power stat card, and I'll roll again. And I'll just keep doing this until one of us is dead. Other X-Men can join in on the fight, including your own. That is, if you play the proper Under Siege card. And you'll notice on the health tracker there are spaces with blood splatters. If your token lands on or passes these, you can collect a blood splatter chip. These are just more things that tally up at the end of the game. They're worth points, that's all. That is pretty much the gist of the game. A person spends their turn discarding whatever cards they want, playing cards, moving their X-Men and attacking, and then drawing cards back into their hand. I played this solo a couple of times, just a couple of mock 2-player battles. I think it's fun. The turns become quite breezy once you've got everything down. The battles do have an element of randomness to them, and it's kind of difficult to strategize or play to strengths or anything like that. It all kind of comes down to luck of the die roll. But when you have your X-Men together, one of them will act as the leader, and you get to choose who that is each turn. And a lot of these power stat card skills activate whenever this particular X-man or X-woman is a leader. And these abilities can really come in handy. So if you can have more than one X-man fighting a particular evil mutant, that would really give you an edge in battle. But otherwise, it's just play until you're tired of all of the different abilities that come with these cards. I do actually really like that these miniatures are the same miniatures that come with the other game, X-Men Alert, which I refer to as the other game, because they're like 60% the same game. In fact, I think when I get that game, I will actually be tempted to paint one of the set of miniatures. So that would be a lot of fun. But it also means if you have a set of miniatures, but you don't have a set of miniatures for the other game, you're only going to be missing 3 characters at most. So in a weird way, it makes the games more accessible. The last thing I should probably cover is that you'll see these numbers on each floor. These represent how many tokens from the floor that you need to collect before you can just say, all right, I've completely secured the floor. And then you go ahead and collect all of the tokens that are on the floor left. So for example, there are 9 rooms in the basement and it has a value of 5. So if one of the players has 2 of these tokens because of successful mutant battles or securing rooms or whatever, then they've got 2 points from this. If player 2 has 4 and they just scored their 5th one, they can go ahead and take the last 2 for themselves, meaning they have a total of 7 points from this floor. And you don't have to keep track of the points. Everything is tallied by collecting the chips and room tokens and blood tokens and various other things. So it's really just a matter of counting up what you have at the end of the game. But yeah, that's X-Men Under Siege. Guys, let me know what you thought of this overview below, and if you learned anything from this video, and if you'd like to see unboxings and presentations like this, in this same style, I would really value that feedback. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. Comment anything like down below, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, onward, brave heroes.